When you spend 2 decades wearing a motorcycle club patch, serving in leadership, and half a century raised in the life, among some of the largest organizations on record, there are several life lessons to be learned. This is one of those lessons. I've said it before, but it's worth repeating. If you are at the top of your game in the club life, and you're shitting sunshine in a field of flowers, you best enjoy it because it ain't gonna last. It never does. I have been fortunate enough to befriend and learn from some of the absolute top players in the clubs that you've heard of. And every single one of them, and I mean every one of them, have either been cycled out by their own so-called brothers, kidnapped and locked in a cage by the American injustice system, or found an early grave. In a previous podcast, I had talked about the United States boss of a very large club whose bib overall got stained by a permanent marker. I'm not sure that I mentioned that our last weekend together at a national event during a large bike week about the conversation that he and I had last. I was rolling out, getting ready to get on the bike to make my trip home, and we were saying our goodbyes. I honestly don't recall what got us on that subject, but he said to the point, "I hope I see you again." I said, "Why, sure as hell hope so. You plan on going somewhere?" He said, "Well, Tabasco and our lifestyle, you just never know. I might end up spending the rest of my life in prison." I said, "Well, what the hell would they want to lock up a truck-driving biker for?" He just smiled and laughed and said, "You'd be surprised." That was the last time I ever saw or spoke to him, because it was Sunday when I cut out to head back to my house. I think he stayed maybe till Monday morning, and then went his way with his escort, and they must have got home probably in the wee hours of Tuesday morning. And if I'm remembering right, it was sometime on that very day that the ABC crew came kicking his door in to haul him off to the Injustice System's Hypocrite Hotel for the rest of his life. I guess he wasn't wrong. That was another lesson learned. And this brother right here was a true one percenter's one percenter that you could ever meet. He lived the life 24/7, 365, and except for the one time he tried to apologize to me for delivering me bad news, he didn't apologize to anyone else for anything else. At his peak, he was the personal bodyguard to the United States boss of a very large club, as well as the national enforcer. He had the best party on him at all times, and smoking hot chicks hanging on both arms, and 2 or 3 more in his crib. And at one time, we were as thick as thieves coming up together. It strained our friendship when I eventually wore a different diamond. We were at a large Easy Rider motorcycle event, and he and his club did the traditional walk down to our compound with about 100 patches to greet us like we've done year after year. I was standing there at our bar in our compound talking to him and another well-known leader of their club from the Great Lakes region, and I stuck my hand out to shake his hand, and he wouldn't shake my hand. He looked at me with this smirk that he had that I knew so very well. I said, "What's up with you? You ain't gonna shake my hand?" The other leader from the Great Lakes said, "Hell, Tabasco, I'll shake your hand." And he did. But my longtime brother from another mother said, "Well, I'm not happy." But he really was. But anyway, I asked, "Why is that?" He said, "Because I wanted that diamond on your chest to match mine." I said, "You know better than anyone why it's not the same diamond." He said, "Yeah, but I'm a," and he named his club, "through and through." I said, "Oh, brother, you will be until you aren't." And he said, "That will never happen." I just looked at him and said, "Don't ever say never, brother," and I walked away. Unfortunately, it wasn't but a couple years after that I had heard that his club had put him out. Again, like I started telling you about him, this man was a one percenter's one percenter. And I have known many one percenters in my life, and I will tell you that none were as committed as he was during his reign at the top of his game. But like I told you, it don't last. He died only a couple years after he had left the club due to some health issues that he had neglected during his time in leadership. And he was the epitome of live hard and die fast. But what do I know? I'm just Tabasco the Biker. Keep it real.
In the club life you get one shot to prove that you're a man. One shot to be the best you can. One